So our first presentation actually uniquely involves myself as well. So our first presentation is a patient panel between myself and Robyn Peacock. So Robyn Peacock is a valve disease survivor and a passionate patient advocate whose journey led her to powerful work with Heart Valve Voice. You'll hear a lot of different organizations with us throughout the day. Heart Valve Voice is one that is that we've partnered with as well for information and things like that. So through Heart Valve Voice, she helps raise awareness, shape policy, and make sure patient voices are heard at every level. So with that, without further ado, Miss Robyn Peacock. Oh, you have a lapel. Oh, she has a lapel mic. All right, cool.
So I got upgraded.
You got upgraded. You're way more important than I am. So, Robyn, why don't we start with a little bit of your journey? Why don't you give us a synopsis of what your journey looks like?
So, I was adopted at birth, and so I never knew my medical history. Fast forward to, I'm going to skip a lot because it's a long story, but basically, I was born with a bicuspid aortic valve, and I had the resulting ascending aortic aneurysm. It was discovered when I was 42 through a coronary calcium scan that I self-referred to. I had been with my girlfriend on Mother's Day 2003 when she died of a heart attack. She was 42. We didn't know that women had heart disease in 2003. It wasn't part of the big media campaign. The internet was just starting. Social media wasn't a thing. And so Maureen is my why. She is why I went and had a calcium scan, because I thought, well, if my doubles tennis partner, active mom of 2 small boys, could just literally die in front of me, I was worried it could happen to me as well. And I saw what happened to her family and her boys without a mother. So my calcium scan comes back 0, but there was a footnote, dilated aorta 44 mm. There was no letter from the facility, there was no phone call, there was no follow-up. So I didn't know what that meant. So I don't know if Google was a thing, but I went on the internet and I just put in dilated aorta. And it was Friday, April 13th, and I read I had an aneurysm. So I'm terrified. I live in a 2-story house. At that point, I'm afraid to go up and down my stairs because I am afraid I'm going to explode. Because I didn't understand at that point that when an aorta tears, it doesn't just burst open, but it tears layer by layer. So I had these visions that I was going to die. My children were 7 and 8. I self-referred myself up to Cedars-Sinai, where I still am being followed up there, and they discovered the bicuspid aortic valve. Part of that diagnosis was the shame that I was carrying from having an eating disorder when I was in my teens and 20s. I was bulimic. And so the shame of carrying that around, thinking I did this to myself, that I created this aneurysm. It was awful. But I will tell you, the doctor told me, no, it's because you have this bicuspid valve. It's not because of that. So I share that because we all have things from our childhood that we carry forward, and we always have to forgive ourselves for those things so we can move on and live a healthier life. Mental health is also a super important part of cardiac disease. So basically, I then was on a 15-year watch and wait. My children were 7 and 8, like I said. I told the doctor at the time, I said, I'm terrified of open heart surgery. All I want is time and technology before I have to go under, because I saw the devastation to my girlfriend's family for them losing their mother at such a young age. I just wanted to launch my children into adulthood and for technology to continue to improve. Little did I know at that time that my valve was in research and development. Fast forward 15 years, I have my open heart surgery in June of 2022. They also replaced the section of the aorta that was the aneurysm. My children graduated from college that week. So I got time and I got technology in those 15 years, and for that I'm forever grateful. Yeah, so that's the short version.
Okay, so now you talk about the different aspects. I came small town, rural, emergency room. The 3 doctors that worked on me, I knew. One of them I coached in cross-country skiing. The other one, his daughter, played hockey with my daughters. When I got to the surgery room in Duluth, the guy that ran the bypass machine on me, I coached in football.
Oh my gosh.
So now with that, you had a little bit of different experience.
I did.
And your ER experience and your coming up, and plus mine was catastrophic.
Yes.
Mine was emergent. So talk a little bit about that difference in being in a larger city, being in a larger community, and a little bit of that aspect.
So I was fortunate to have excellent healthcare insurance at the time. I have a husband who was able to take time off for when I needed to go to appointments. I had access to some of the best doctors in the world. In 2017, during the 15-year watch and wait, I had endocarditis, and it was undiagnosed for over 6 months. And here I live in Los Angeles. Like I said, I've got all this access to doctors. I've got a person who can drive me from appointment to appointment, and not one specialty could figure out what was wrong. I had a subacute infection. So endocarditis, for those that don't know, is an infection. It's a blood infection that actually starts to attack the heart valve. I'm not a doctor, I don't understand all of it, but I do know that this little vegetation gets on your valve or the leaflets and it starts eating away. And so I ended up with a hole in my leaflet, but I was lucky enough that I didn't have to have open heart surgery at that point in time. But for 6 months, I was in a wheelchair. This subacute infection ended up in my legs, and the pain in my legs. The infection was in my heart, the pain was in my legs, I could not walk. But all these specialties, orthopedic, neurology, rheumatology, oncology, cardiology, nobody could figure out, nobody did a blood culture, which is separate than a blood test. And with my bicuspid history and with my aneurysm history, they should have done a blood culture, in my opinion. But I wasn't presenting with typical symptoms. I was then hospitalized for hemoglobin. My hemoglobin dropped to 7.1. They said we need to do a blood transfusion. From that hospitalization, I developed a staph infection, which became the acute infection, which gave me the 104 fever, which gave me the hospitalization, which then I met infectious disease for the first time, and my endocarditis is now part of my history. But it's a great example of I have access through insurance, through access with my husband, ability to get there, ability to call in and get appointments pretty rapidly, not waiting 6 months, and I still couldn't get a diagnosis. So advocating for yourself is something that I am huge on. Don't ever give up, always have hope, and if you're not comfortable or you don't get the right answer, keep going. It's okay. I was afraid to hurt doctors' feelings and say, oh, I'm gonna go get a second opinion. No, please don't. Please don't be me. Do as I say, not as I did.
I've fired 2 doctors before. So it is your care. It means the most to you. We do have to give our providers the benefit of the doubt because they are the professionals. But if there's some aspect of it that it's not jiving with you, trust me, the doctors know it too. They are okay if you move on. Their 5,000 patients they have behind you will get their attention. So
yeah.
By all means, you need to pair with people that you know and trust, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
So now, my events, we still can't pinpoint to exactly what is going on. I have theories.
Yes.
I have major theories. My tin hat might get me in trouble, but my theories stem from Vietnam and my father with Agent Orange. Now, my understanding is yours might be more family aspect.
Yes.
Why don't you talk a little bit about that family and that hereditary?
So you're beginning to hear that I have all these different facets to my story. If you'll remember that I am adopted, and I did not know my birth family until later in life. I am now very close with my birth mother. I met her at 30, 15 years or 12 years before my diagnosis. So I didn't know to ask other than what's your medical history or what's your family's medical history, and they're clear of heart disease. So then I was diagnosed recently during COVID through Ancestry.com. I did find my father's family, and I am now in touch with them. I am one of many first cousins, and my half-brother has the bicuspid aortic valve. So it does run in families. When I was diagnosed in 2007, my children were scanned at Cedars. We were part of a genetic study, and they do not have it. But for their height and weight at the time, at their age, their aortas were a little enlarged. So they have to watch that over their time because it could be part of like a connective tissue disorder. Again, I'm not a doctor, but this is what I'm understanding, and this is what I've shared with them. So this is knowing your family history. And I had the challenge of being adopted and now I do know the family. So know your family history, ask the questions now. There's so many great resources online. We at Heart Valve Voice US, which is an organization that I now work with, advocating and educating on heart valve disease to anyone who will listen. We are developing a list of questions to kind of take to your family reunions or to Thanksgiving, so it makes it an easier conversation, and start writing it down because tomorrow's not promised. And so I have started a document for my children because my husband is also adopted, and we also know his birth family. So we have all sorts of trees and ideas and things that our children need to know for when we're not here to answer those questions.
And that's very important when you come from different homes and things like that. I mean, there's a definite aspect of it's very important to know your family's medical history, or at least for your family to know your medical history, because a lot of what aortic disease and aortic valve disease and any valve disease for that matter, a lot of it has to do with genetics. And it's most important that if you have these issues, that you need to tell your children, your offspring, your brothers, your sisters, your mothers, your cousins, and encourage them to get a cardiologist and start there. At the age of 18, everyone should have two things: sign up for selective service, and they should get their first cardiology appointment. Hands down, that's my belief, and until that changes, we'll work with every aspect to try to make that happen someday.
Can we talk about that just a little bit, early
yes,
detection?
Absolutely.
Okay, I don't mean to change your.
This is a panel. We shift things up here. So
hashtag Ask for Echo is a campaign that Heart Valve Voice US put out a couple of years ago, and it's still ongoing. And basically, it's to ask your primary for an echocardiogram, especially if someone has ever said to you, "Oh, I hear a little murmur." Murmurs are not 100% indicative of heart valve disease, but they can also help early diagnosis, because a lot of heart valve disease is asymptomatic. And so you don't know until maybe you go to the hospital for, you're having you're having breathing issues, and all of a sudden they come in and say, you have valve disease and we need to replace your valve within the next 48, 72 hours. So a lot of people are surprised with the diagnosis. A lot of people like myself, I was on this long watch and wait, but it was by chance that we discovered it. I did not have symptoms until about 1.5 years before my surgery. And my half-sibling, who also has the bicuspid valve, he's 17 years younger than I am, he has no symptoms. And so until I came in the picture, he figured he didn't need to worry about it. And so I'm encouraging him slowly to please get an echo and just have it watched. There was a point of that, though. Early detection, echo. I'll remember. That's the brain fog.
You'll remember at 4 o'clock.
That's right.
All right. So let's talk next about the mental health aspect of it.
Oh, wow.
Because that's the big, giant green monster out in left field that nobody likes to talk about. They don't want to talk about how it makes us feel. They don't want to talk about, we don't ask, what do we ask questions when we're at the doctor? We ask, I'm having a pain here, do you know what that is? Or can you explain a little bit more what my white blood cell count might mean? But when do we ever take the time to go, does it ever get better in my mind? Do I ever stop thinking about this? Do I ever go to bed with a peace of mind knowing that I'm going to wake up just fine? That's the things that we don't talk about. And it's very important that we talk about it. Extremely important. And I know for myself, I'm a little bit of a different cat, and I sometimes will self-heal myself in that aspect, but I do talk to people a lot. I talk to my wife a lot. It's very important to have a caregiver. It's very important that that caregiver is supportive and that you are supportive of them. It's what keeps us going, but please don't ever feel like you can't talk to someone professionally. It is not an embarrassment. Everyone goes through it. All of us go through it. All of us have our dark days. All of us sit there and live inside of our own head thinking about what if, what could be. And that is important that you take care of that aspect, because the mental side of it is just as important as the physical side.
It is.
And I mean, I can't stress that enough. I really, really can't stress that enough. So if I'm always an open book. All my contact information is on my podcast, by the way. If anybody wants to check that out, I am willing to take any questions via email, via text, via Facebook Messenger, anything like that. I get them. I get text messages. I get messengers from people just asking questions. And just know, it's okay to not be okay. It is. It's okay every once in a while to not be okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to cry. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be happy. It's okay to be everything. But it's also okay to not be okay. So.
I agree with all of that. So that's one of the foundations of Heart Valve Voice US is an online support community. We are a private online support community that we hold a monthly Voices of Support call for patients and caregivers, their families, and we just talk about current issues, or if there's something struggling with you at the moment, or if you're newly diagnosed. I do have some information at the table out there. I too also will talk to people one-on-one. I do a lot of peer chatting, just kind of listening and trying to provide some resources, and if I don't have the resource, I try to find it for them or direct them in a direction. You are not alone. That is the biggest message. You are not alone. A lot of, as we age, we start getting comorbidities, and so those become scary when you start involving heart disease and heart valve disease. There's just a lot of great resources out there, and I know we have a fabulous speaker on mental trauma. Okay, she doesn't want to be called fabulous, but I'm excited to hear from her.
Supposed to downplay her a little.
Yes, so I did not know that post-cardiac open heart surgery depression was a thing. And I saw it on a Facebook group that I joined probably a year before my surgery, and someone was talking about it. And so I, of course, since I was waiting for 15 years for mine, and I was told, I was actually thrilled. I wanted to have a party. It's like, yes, let's get this going. Let's get this fixed. I was super happy and excited. I get through it. I had a great recovery. I had a great situation. For me personally, it all went well. 5 months later, boom. All of a sudden, I was snotty, I was really short with people, I was angry, I was sad, I was crying. I had no idea what had hit me. And it was winter, it was November. So I also don't particularly do well in November and December, just not my favorite season in terms of and I live in Los Angeles, I have sunshine, so I can't blame it on the cold, dark winter. It's just not my thing. So at first I thought it was that. It's like, oh, it's becoming the holiday. It's not really my thing. So I figured out I had to process the physical trauma of what happened to my body. Because mentally I was stoked. I was so happy it was done, and I was happy I was doing well. But I realized, the body holds the score. And I had had some massive physical trauma. So that I had to dive deep, because I did not dive deep before my open heart surgery. What happens? I knew generally what happens, but after the surgery, during this depression, I realized I had to heal that part of it. And so I now know in great detail and have watched great videos on exactly what happens to us. And I am fascinated by the perfusionist, fascinated. And it turns out I met the daughter of my perfusionist in a random American Heart Association event, just random in Los Angeles. And her dad basically held my life in her hands besides my surgeon. And so if you get those depressions, and I'm not saying it's a one and done. Grief, as you know, is 5 stages, more or less. and they don't come in a certain order, and they can keep coming back. And so it's reconciliation over and over and over about what trauma you have been through and what your experience is. And I do feel, excuse me, super grateful for my experience. I think it's the greatest gift I've ever been given at this point in my life, because I now get to give back, and I've never felt more fulfilled talking to patients and just helping them get through this massive life event. So please know you're not alone, and there are resources, and I'm happy to help. And I'm happy to help if you know neighbors or friends that are being diagnosed or whatever, please reach out.
All right, excellent. Well, I want to thank you, Robyn, for coming up here and giving us some excellent information once again. Heart Valve Voice, Robyn, will be available throughout the day, so please feel free to utilize her and chat with her. I want to thank everyone for attending today. Thank you to, obviously, all the providers and speakers that were here today. Thank you for attending. Thank you for all the great people and partnerships that we've made over the years that has helped make this possible.